The anemo is one type, that is through the anemo, A-N-E-M-O. Anemo means through wind. Wind agency is involved in transporting the pollen grains from one plant to another plant. So many number of plants, particularly when you take the Asclepiadaceae members of the plants and then the Asteraceae members, they are mainly transferred. The transportation of the pollen grains is mainly executed by the wind agency. So wind one is one most important factor, and then the zoochorus plants based on the animals. Animals are the particularly the lower animals like the insects and some flies, honeybees. They are involving in the transfer of the pollen grains from one plant to another plant. These are called as the zoochorus. And hydrochorus, most of the water plants, of course, water plants mainly reproducing through the vegetative means. The terrestrial plants mostly by the seeds they are reproducing, but the aquatic plants mainly by the vegetative method they are reproducing. But however, seed dispersal, seed distribution, seed germination is also be there in aquatic plants. So you take for example the mangrove plants. Mangroves, they are transporting the hydrocotyle, that is the plumule or the seed of the plant, from one region to another region. Water is playing major role. Water current, along with the water current, the plumules they are taken away from the parent plant to other areas, and so this plant is established well in the estuarine areas. So many other plants also in riverbeds, when you see the coconut and other things, they are distributed by the agency of the water. So after pollination, actually the fruit formation is taking place. Pollination results in the fertilization of the plants. So you know fertilization. Actually, in the higher plants, a double fertilization is taking place. One, the fusion of egg with the male gamete. Another one is the fusion of the another gamete with the male gamete with the secondary nuclei. There are two, that is triploid. So primary endosperm nucleus is formed in the second fertilization. That is for nourishment of the developing embryo. So this is the fertilization. After fertilization, the fruit formation is taking place. So fruits are the basic for the reproduction. The first phase of the reproduction is the fruit formation in the sexually reproducing plants. So fruits in the that means the type of fruits and the number of seeds present in fruits, that can vary according to plant species. Different kinds of plants, they are having a different number of seeds in them. So sometimes some of the plants they can produce only one seed per the fruit. To take for example coconut fruit, we can see only one seed. So many number of plants like that. The millions of seeds are also be produced by single plant in one flush. So that is depending upon the plant species. And then the seed output. Seed output means the number of seeds produced by the plant in one season. That is called as the seed output. Seed output is also one of the important factor we have to study in relation with the environmental factors in art ecology, because that is the first phase actually having higher resistance against the any adverse condition. If the drought is very prolonged, then the seeds can adjust. It can resist the prolonged drought condition. So after some of the seeds, they can have more than 100 years. The seeds are viable without in the adverse conditions. Even the seeds collected from the herbarium seeds, the seeds prepared or the herbarium specimens are prepared and even more than 100 years. So the taxonomists, they are collecting the seeds from the herbarium and then they are germinating. After 100 years, 150 years, they are germinating well. You see, some of the plants, some plants like the leguminaceae, most of the leguminaceae members, the seed germination that will take even until 1 year or 2 years, sometimes 5 years, 10 years also, depending upon the hardness of the seed coat. And then after then, the seed output, that is also calculated. The one character is there, that is called as the seed output. Seed output is nothing but the average number of seeds produced per plant in one season. Suppose if they are annuals, only one time they can produce the seeds and then they will die. But perennials are there, the trees, every year or every season sometimes the trees can produce seeds. Ficus, it can produce the the thousands of seeds per year. So some leguminous, I told grasses, they can produce more number of seeds per year. The grasses, there are two types. One is the annuals and perennial grasses. Annual grasses that also produce hundreds of seeds per season, and then the perennials, they can produce again thousands of seeds. So minute seeds, they can be produced by the grasses. Seed output after them, the seed dispersal. I told about the agencies. So through various agencies, the seeds are distributed in different places. Whether the place is suitable or not, without any bias, the agencies are carrying the seeds to different places. So wherever the suitable places are available, there only the seeds are germinating. So that is the next stage, that is called as uh, the viability. Viability is most important in the seeds, because viability is nothing but the livingness of the seeds. So all seeds, they can live after harvest for a certain period. So we are processing the seeds. The seeds are processed well by air drying or sun drying. We are reducing moisture content of the seeds as maximum as possible. Then we are storing. If the seeds are with moisture during the storage period, the mold infection will come, fungal infection will come, and seeds will be destroyed. Insects will also come. Seeds will be deteriorated very rapidly when the moisture content is above the uh, limited level. So we have to reduce the moisture content as maximum as possible to prolong the viability of the seed. One character is there, that is viability period. Viability period means the time between the seed output or seed production and then when the seed loses its viability, the period of or time of the seed losing its viability. So seed output, the time of seed output, and then the time of the losing of seed viability, seed germination capacity, that is called as the viability period. So this is also varying according to species. Some of the plants that can germinate even 10 years or 10 years afterwards. When it is properly processed, the viability period can be prolonged. But in some plants, the viability period is very less, only 10 to 15 days only for many number of species. So in cassia, some of the cassia species, they can have the viability period of 1 week only. And similarly, the plants, the Dalbergia plant also having the lower viability period of 5 to 10 days only. So within that period, we have to germinate the seeds. So then the dormancy. So dormant period is inevitable for all kinds of seeds. So after fertilization, so if the embryo is matured, even after endosperm is matured, it will take some resting period for the fuller development of the seed. So that is called as the sleeping stage of the seeds, that is called as the dormant period. So during dormant period, no seeds can germinate. After the completion of the dormant period only, the seeds can be germinated. The causes of the dormancy is by many factors. We can say the development of the embryo is inadequate development of endosperm, the hard seed coat present in the seeds, and less nutrient content or the less resources available in the seeds. These are all some of the reasons due to which the dormancy that can be prolonged. So dormancy that can be broken mechanically by some simple exercises. We can break the dormancy. Suppose even after completion of the dormancy, some of the seeds species seeds, they cannot germinate. If you provide adequate or suitable conditions, the seeds cannot germinate even after the dormant condition. So in such cases, we have to deteriorate, or we have to break the dormancy. The dormancy that can be broken by scarification methods. Scarification is simply rubbing off of seed coats of leguminous plants, the beans, and then the cassia and the senna. These are all the plants, they are having very hard seed coats. So the water cannot enter very easily inside. Imbibation of water, that will be very difficult in such cases. So simply when you rub the seeds over rough surfaces or any sandpaper, the seed coat may become softened and it can permit water to go inside. Then the seeds can readily germinate. Other method, hot water treatment. So for a few hours, 1 or 2 hours, when you put the seeds in hot water, not in boiled water, around some 50 degrees centigrade or 60 degrees centigrade. So this much hotness is enough. So in hot water, when you dip the seeds for 1 hour, then it can readily germinate in next day. And other one, the acid treatment, weak acid treatment, even sulfuric acid or hydrochloric acid, dilute acid that can be used for the breaking of dormancy there. Treatment for few minutes in the such acids that will also use to break the dormancy. And then the one process we are having, vernalization. What is vernalization? Actually, the low temperature treatment that will be more useful for early flowering and all early flowering of the plants. It is not related with the dormancy. Vernalization in the countries like Russia, almost all plants they are experiencing the vernalization very naturally because the wheat and other crop plants they are harvested before the winter season. So they are fully harvesting all the wheat and other crop plants before winter season. Harvesting and the post harvesting they are stored the seeds in natural places. There is no special treatment for the plants. During winter, the completely harvested seeds they are getting low temperature, the sub-zero degree centigrade, below 0 degree centigrade, the seeds are experiencing. So such a very low temperature after the completion of the winter, immediately the seeds can germinate. But in the tropical countries, we are keeping the seeds in low temperature very artificially, and then we are breaking the dormancy through this treatment of vernalization, and early flowering will be coming. The flowering will be very earlier, 10 days or 15 days earlier, the flowering will flower will come. So we can save 10 days of irrigation and 10 days of management of the crops in such a way. Vernalization, one important aspect, the temperature, the environmental factor, low temperature, that factor is playing role in the flowering of the plants. So after dormancy, seed germination, and then the reproductive capacity, seed germination. So the germination of the seeds after attaining, after breaking the dormancy, when the conditions are favorable, almost all seeds they can germinate. The most important requirement for germination is the moisture and oxygen. Oxygen, no problem in air, adequately available around 20%. Moisture content. When you give adequate moisture, the seeds will germinate. So germination, that is the process happening place, and then the reproductive capacity that can vary according to species. Even for animals also, the reproductive capacity is varying from species to species. So in plants, when you take the reproductive capacity is calculated based on certain formula, very simple formula, that is the percentage germination, seed output multiplied with the percentage germination, then the factor obtained is divided by 100. Then we can get the reproductive capacity. Any plant species with more than 30% reproductive capacity, then that will be the most successful if the habitat is suitable. So such a way we are we are describing the species, the successful establishment of species in different areas based on the reproductive capacity also, because some of the plants they can produce enormous number of seeds, but the viability and germination capacity will be very less. Out of 1,000 seeds produced, sometimes the germination percentage is only 5%. Out of 100, only 5 seeds can germinate. This is not at all useful for the perfect dispersed distribution of the plant species. So species with a high reproductive capacity above 30%, that will be more important for any type of plant species for the successful establishment at any environment, suitable environmental conditions. And then the seedling growth. So seed we told that is the most important resistant part that can resist any adverse conditions. But the seedlings they are very sensitive. Just to contrast to the seed, the seedlings are very resistant. Sorry, very sensitive. They even very little bit increase in temperature, increase in light intensity, and exposure to open light that will affect the seedlings. So the seedlings that can be protected. So some of the plants, that's why they are producing and the seeds are germinating in the shade areas under the canopy of the seeds only, the trees only, the seeds are germinating. So such a way they are simply resisting the environmental conditions, adverse conditions, and the seedlings are developing. So seedlings most sensitive part that can be protected. In natural, out of 1,000 seedlings they are germinating at one stage, 10 or 20 only getting success because of the environmental influence. So very little number only they are getting success. But in the controlled condition, when it is managed by man, there is no problem. But it's in open places in natural conditions, this is the problem. But some plants, almost all they are getting success. You take for example the exotic plant species Parthenium, and then the Lantana camera, Prosophis, and some other plants like the Iconia. They are reproducing anything else. So very huge biomass that can produce, that they are producing. The reason is they can adjust the environment, and they are taking almost all resources. In competition they are getting success. The produced seedlings, they are very resistant to the environmental conditions, so they are getting success. And then some of the plants, they are very sensitive. So as earlier told, out of 1,000 seeds germinating, only 10 or 20 they can get success. So this is in nature. Based on that, the community organization is taking place. And then the vegetative growth. So after the successful development of the seedling, out of 1,000 seeds, only 5 or 10 they are passing the stage of seedling. The vegetative growth is there. Vegetative growth, it is also in the very fast pace. That is in the, because the requirement is mainly water and nitrate. When the nitrate or nitrogen resource is high in soil, then the growth will be very higher, provided the water is very favorable. So water and nutrients, they are very playing major role in the vegetative growth. So after vegetative growth, almost the final, again the cycle is returning, the flowering coming, and then the pollination, fertilization, so seed, fruit formation, these are all the things coming again. So in this life cycle, almost all stages, without the influence of environmental conditions, no stages are passed successfully. And then the successful distribution of the plants and other animals, other organisms, they are totally depending upon the type of adjustment. When you take the animals, they are having number of mechanisms to manage the climatic conditions and other environmental conditions. If the climate is too hot, then the animals are simply migrating. So migration is one mechanism the animals are following to resist the adverse environmental conditions. Another one, developing adaptive conditions. So a development of adaptations that is common for all kinds of organisms, even in plants also. Different characters that can be developed according to the requirement. So in animals also, you see various development, the adaptations are there. You see some of the animals in the Arctic region, in the Arctic, Antarctic region, actually not Arctic, in Antarctic region, some fish they are having freezing protein. In nature they are having some, they are producing some proteins. That proteins that will be used to arrest the freezing of water content in the fish. So fish are, the temperature, always -5, -10 like that in the Arctic, Antarctic region. Even -20, 30 degree also be there. In winter, it is going up to -70 degrees centigrade. So in this low temperature also, in deep, below the ice sheet, in water, the fishes are living. The reason is they are producing anti-freeze proteins there. In animals, no problem, they are moving one way. But in plants, they are not movable. So they are producing lot of adaptive characters in high temperature regions. How the plants are managing from the water loss, what kind of morphological adaptations are there, anatomical adaptations, physiological adaptations, biochemical adaptations the plants are having, through which they are enduring or resisting any kind of the water scarcity. You take, for example, Opuntia. Opuntia is the plant, even years together, if there is no water, the plant is always green in color, greenish in color. The reason is they are having biochemically the pectin and nitrogenous compounds. This combination of pectin and nitrogenous compounds, they can hold water. The water is held by the this a jelly material. When you open or break up the cladode of the opensia, we can have the jelly material. These jelly materials are nothing but the pectic substances along with nitrogenous compounds. So this combination is used to hold the water. The water is bound very tightly inside the tissues. So whenever for metabolism the plant is requiring water, that quantity of water only released. Recently in the Nature, one paper has been published. These kinds of the opensia, they are having nanoscales. Nanoscales means the over the cladode we can see, we cannot see by naked eye. By the electron microscopic observation, they revealed that the presence of the nanoscales. The scales are overlapping to each other. In between the overlapping places between the scales, there is a minute nano holes. Through the nano holes, during early morning, you see, in all places we are getting little bit mist or the snow. According to climatic area, the snow or the mist will be there. This water in the mist or snow that can be uh, absorbed by the plant through the nano holes through capillary force. The nano force is involving and through which the water is absorbed by the plants. That water is used for the metabolism in one day. Again, in the next day, they are taking water from the atmosphere through the nano holes. So this is the way the xerophytic plants, they are having adaptive features and adjusting the environmental conditions. So these vegetative growth that can be influenced by different kinds of environmental factors, different factors, and then various forms are also be there. Even in the last class also I told about that always all organism tends to live by developing certain characters in a place. So in a habitat, in a natural habitat, we cannot experience the uniform climatic condition throughout the year. There are seasonal variations, daily temperature, daily light intensity, daily humidity, the nutrients, water content, everything is varying at every moment. Similarly, seasonal variations are there. So, according to variations, they are developing certain features through which they are perpetuating in that area. They are distributed in an area. There are three major forms of plants are there through which they are easily surviving in different areas. Because if suppose a plant, there are three conditions. One is minimum requirement, the optimum requirement, and maximum. So in the minimum condition, the growth and the development will be very poor. In optimum conditions, the growth and development will be very higher. That is in the peak condition. Again, in the maximum conditions, maximum high intensity of light, high temperature, high water content. If the conditions are too high, again the growth will be slowed down. So optimum is the most requirement, most important factor. So suppose the environmental condition, take for example, one plant is growing well, the photosynthesis will be very high at 25 degrees centigrade. 25 is the most optimum we are saying for a particular plant species. If the temperature is at 27, the plant will not die. But at the same time, the photosynthesis will be reduced slightly. Again, the temperature will be 28 or 30 degrees centigrade. At this condition also, the plant will not die. The photosynthesis will be slightly reduced again. If the temperature is 35-40 degrees centigrade, then it cannot be tolerated by the plant. At one stage, the mechanism of photosynthesis that will be totally collapsed, the increased temperature. So in this particular example, when you lower the temperature below 25 degrees centigrade, 20 degree not at all a factor, the photosynthesis will continue but at lesser rate. If the 15 degree, again the photosynthesis will continue at lesser rate, very less rate. When the temperature is 10 degree, the plant will not survive. The photosynthesis will collapse again. So we can say for 15 to 30 degree, no problem, the plant will survive. This is an adjustment with the environment. So for all environmental changes in any habitat, the organisms tends to live in that area by developing adaptive features. So these are all the adaptive features developed by the plant. So the adaptive feature, based on the adaptive characters developed, there are various forms of plants are there. We can say ecots, ecotypes, and then the eco species. There are the three types of forms are there for the better distribution of any species. Ecots means they are induced, environmentally induced variations. We cannot see for any species the similar or type of populations. Suppose one plant you take Euphorbia hitta, it is growing in one region. We can see the height of the plant, we can see the number of leaves there, we can see the content of chlorophyll there. So it is entirely different. When you see another population of same Euphorbia hitta, another 100 kilometers away from that first place, there also Euphorbia hitta is there in tropical climate, but the population is entirely different. The height of the plant, number of leaves per plant, number of fruits per cyme. So these are all the things are varying. So why this variation is coming? These are all environmentally induced variations for better development and establishment for any species. Because of the variation in environmental condition, these morphological variations also be there in plants for the better survival in two different conditions. So this is called as the ECODs. So one in one area, sometimes the plant may be very small. The same species in another area, it may be tall. The reason is environmental availability. The second place may be more convenient and more comfortable for the growth of the plant. So the populations, they are showing very taller when compared to the first place. So this is called ECODs. ECODs are the naturally the characters are developed or in somatic regions and irreversible. The characters developed are reversible. Suppose you are taking the seeds of one ecod to the other places, some 100 kilometers away, you are taking the seeds and you are germinating the seeds, and it is coming to adult stage. When you see, the original characters will come again. So the characters that can change according to environment in ecods. So this is one case. For the many number of cases are reported so far. Almost all organisms, they are having the ECOD formations. When any organism with more ECODs, then they can distribute in different areas. And many reports are there. For plant system, you see, in India, the first case was reported in 1960 by one popular ecologist, Ramakrishnan, for Euphorbia hitta, Euphorbia thymifolia. For Euphorbia hitta, he reported two ECODs. One is prostate type, and another one is prostate compact type. Prostate type means it is only growing in the grazing a hard and compact soil. Wherever the soil is hard and compact, there the prostate type is coming, growing. It is not erect, it is not growing tall. It is adnating on the ground surface only. It is not in an erect type. Because the condition is like that, so the plant is responding like that. The same species, when it is growing in footpath or in trampling area, animal trampling area, it is very compact. The branches are so close. That is also prostate, not erect. The branches are compactly close, and the number of leaves in the branches are very dense. So that is called as the prostate compact type. According to climate, when you take the seeds of the prostate compact type and when you germinate in the um, areas hard and compact soil, then it will show the prostate nature only. So this is the reversible characters. So this is the way the plants are adapting the both climatic conditions and growing well. Another the variation that is called as the ecotypes. Ecotypes, of course, it is genetically controlled. They are having genetic variations between the populations of the same species. You can ask, is there, then how can you say they are both belonging to same species? The reason is both can interfertile very easily. They can produce very viable seeds by the cross pollination. If interfertility is possible, then we can consider both the populations are coming under similar same species. So in ecotypes, the characters are irreversible. We cannot get back again the original character, even it is grown in the various climatic conditions. So whatever the climatic conditions, it shows they are showing their own character. The length of the stem and the number of leaves produced there, the color of the plant, the color of the stem, everything that will be very unique for the ecotypes. According to environmental condition, they won't be changing. So they are the irreversible character and the genetically fixed character. But in the previous case, ecots, they are the somatic characters and then the reversible characters. And eco species are there. Eco species are also many ecotypes, they are forming one eco species. they are also interfertile. They are showing variations at genetic level, interfertile, but they cannot produce viable seeds. So seeds can be produced, but they are not viable. So interfertility is possible. That's why they are considered to be the same species, but they are called as the eco species. So any species, they can have more number of ecots, more number of ecotypes, and more number of eco species. They can grow in different habitats, in different climatic conditions. They can grow. So the success of the species in different environmental regions is depending upon the number of forms they can produce, like ecots, ecotypes, and so on. So this is depending upon the type of forms produced. So the study about all those things, how each and every stages of the plants and animal systems, they are influenced by the environmental factors. What are the requirements of environmental factors for each and every condition? So the knowledge acquired by all these studies, that is called as the art ecology. Art ecological study significance, it is most essential to maintain any kind of plantation, any kind of animal rearing, like why I told about the poultry, dairy. You see dairy, even now we are the important cattle are there. We are using Jersey and so many farms. So we have to take a special care for them. It is not like that of our Congam breed. The Congam breed is our original species, so it can withstand any adverse condition in our area. Likewise, the fodder also, anything, any palatable fodder that can be adjusted by the this type of our Congam breed. But this important cattle, special care. If the temperature is slightly higher than the 35 degrees centigrade, then we have to give special care. Some of the cattle, they are growing in the they are maintaining the cattle in the AC rooms. So such low temperature it is requiring humidity that should also be maintained very uniformly, low humidity that is needed. So this is totally the knowledge about the cattle and the requirement of environmental condition. This must be important to maintain the dairy farm very successfully. Likewise, the other animals also. When you come to sin ecology, that is another major branch of ecology. Sin ecology, that means the organisms are studied together. All the organisms, they are studied together instead of the study of individual organism in relation to environmental condition. The organisms in a community, plants, animals, microorganisms, all together, they are studied in relation to the environmental condition prevailing there. So how that environment is influencing for the development of the community. So actually the sin ecological concept or the sin ecology term that has been introduced in 1896 by the two pioneer ecologists, Scotter and Kirchner. These were the two people introduced this term sin ecology. It is nothing but the community study. Sin ecology is the community study. More than one species, more than one population of different species, they are studied together in relation to environmental condition. That is called as the sin ecology. Sin ecological studies are also most important for any type of afforestation program, the forest management, the pasture land management, range land management, even for the natural area, savanna management, desert management also. So for all kinds of ecosystem management, the knowledge about the sin ecology is most essential, because the plants of different categories, different families, different taxonomic groups. Similarly, the animals of different taxonomic groups, they are sharing a common resource. Suppose when you take a small grassland area, not only that is constituted by grasses. Why we are saying that is grassland? Grasses are dominating plant. That means not only that is constituted by grasses. Other than grasses, we can have many number of dicot plants. We can have many animals. The animals like the insects, snake, and then the frog, the rat, then the eagle, birds like eagle, so many grasshopper, so many animals, rabbit, many animals are also be there. This combination in total, they are called as the grassland. So the grassland or any type of natural ecosystem or natural community, that is selected by the natural environmental factors only. Nature only select the type of community to grow in a particular place. So we told that the environmental conditions are the master factors. They are dictating what kind of plants and what kind of community to be there. So the development, the of origin and development of any type of community in a particular place, that can be determined by the environmental factors available there. So that's why when you study different organisms together, then it is most important for the development of any type of the forestry programs, even for the herbal gardens, for all these programs, for the maintenance of the natural parks, zoological parks, for all these things, the community analysis, community knowledge about the community, biotic community is most important. You know, there are two types of community: minor communities and major communities. So any habitat, if it is occupied by more than one plant, one species, whether it may be a plant or animal or microbe or the combination of the all the three, if it is constituted or organized by more than one species, then it is called community. So the study about the organisms present in that community is called as the syn ecology in relation with the environment. So how we are seeing in art ecology, each and every stage, the environmental conditions are influencing the organism. Similarly, in the syn ecology also, the group of plants, they are influenced by the environmental factors. The organisms, they are doing a same function or similar function that can be sharing the environmental factors without disturbing the other in many cases. How that community is organized, you see, the successful, the establishment or successful of the organism in a place, it is depending upon the ecological amplitude. So what is ecological amplitude? That is, in the previous class itself I told about the plasticity of organism. Plasticity is the adjusting capacity controlled by the genetic factor of the organism. So whatever the water you are pouring, nutrients you are giving to the plant like a herb, it won't be a tree, because the herb is the habit of the plant. That habit is controlled or the fixed at the genetic level. So even if you pour more water, more nutrients, more light intensity, the herb cannot become a tree. So that is the genetic factor. So the genetically, every organism is having its own tolerance to the environmental conditions. I told the previous case that 25 degrees centigrade temperature is most optimum for a plant for the photosynthesis. Means 30 and 15 degrees centigrade will not affect the plant, will not affect the survival of the plant. So up to 15 to 30 degree, the plant can adjust. So this adjusting capacity to environmental condition for each and every species, that can vary. Some they can, when you take the desert plant, even up to 90 degrees centigrade, the plants can live. It can live, but the activities, physiological activities will be stopped once again at a high temperature of 90 degrees centigrade. The plant can survive by using the reserves available within the plant. So years together, if the temperature is high, the xerophytic plants can adjust. So this is totally the genetically fixed one, that plasticity. So that plasticity is nothing but the adjusting capacity. Adjusting range of adjusting capacity to environmental condition is called as the ecological amplitude. So any species with a high or wide ecological amplitude, that can live in varied environmental conditions. On the other hand, the species with a narrow ecological amplitude, they can live in the restricted or limited area only. That's why the endemics are not so successful when you compare the wild organisms, because wild organisms, they are distributed cosmopolitan, and they are having the adjusting capacity with the different environmental conditions. But the endemics, they cannot adjust with such type of variation in environment. So they are pushed towards a restricted region, and they are seeing only in that region when you take the globe as a whole. So this ecological amplitude, and then when you see the adjustment between the organisms, so organisms growing in a common habitat, they can adjust themselves for nourishment, for water, for light, and other things. For all these things, they are adjusting you to each other. Even though they are not like that of animals, they don't have the sixth sense. The plants and other organisms, They are adjusting to each other for their nourishment and other resources. The adjustment, for example, stratification is one process through which the organisms are adjusting. Similarly, zonation is another way, another mechanism through which the organisms in a common place they are adjusting. Stratification means the vertical arrangement of the organisms one above the other. Actually, the different communities they are arranged vertically one above the other to adjust for the light intensity. Some of the plants you see forest or grassland you take, in the grassland system there are two layers of vegetation is there. One subterranean floor means totally below the soil level, that is called as the subterranean floor. You see the root system of the plant, rhizomes of the perennial grasses, humus and other things, they are over the soil surface and below the soil surface. This complex is essential for the life of the grasses and other dicots available there. So these resources present below the soil level, they are forming the subterranean floor. And the next one is herbaceous layer. That is above the soil level, that is herbaceous layer. So grasses, dicots, the photosynthetic portions, the stem, leaf, inflorescence, all these portions above the ground level, that is called as the herb layer or herbaceous layer. Two layers, very simply, less number of two layers are available in grassland ecosystem. But when you go to forest ecosystem, depending upon the forest complexity, the number of layers that can vary. Usually 5 layers are there. Why the layering of vegetations is happened? The layering is purely the adjustment between the plants. So all green plants, they are doing photosynthesis. So the light energy is common in that habitat. How they are sharing the light for their better photosynthesis there. So for that they are having this kind of stratification. In the forest you see the forest floor. Forest floor is purely made by humus and other fallen leaf. And then the small, if it is the humid forest, then we can expect more bryophytes in the forest floor, and some pteridophytes are also be there. So this is this they, and then along with animals like millipedes, centipedes, and then the snails, amphibians, and then these are all the very common ants, termites. These are all the very common animals at the forest floor. The small animals they are present at the forest floor, and then the herbaceous layer in the forest. Annual and perennial grasses, some dicot herbs, they are forming the system. The second layer, that is the herbaceous layer. And then the shrub layer. Shrub layer, again, it is taller than the herbs, some 1 meter, 2 meter height. The shrubs, bushy in appearance, they are also doing photosynthesis. And then the shrub layer, next the tree layer. That is the topmost layer. Why this variation is happened? Trees naturally require more intensity of light. That's why they are occupying the top canopy, top level, and getting the sunlight very directly for their better photosynthesis. Similarly, some of the other plants, weak stemmed plants like lianas and then the climbers, they are also requiring more intensity of light, but they cannot grow like that of tree. Tree, they are having very rigid trunk region, but the stem is not so rigid for the flexible life forms like climbers and lianas. Lianas are the woody climbers. So these woody climbers and other normal climbers, our exora plant and pothos and many number of cucurbitaceae, they are the climbers and the lianas. So these plants they require more intensity of light, but they cannot grow like that of tree. Simply they are following a mechanism climbing upon the tree. They are simply climbing upon the tree, and along with the leaves of the trees, the leaves of climbers are also be there at the topmost level, through which they are getting high intensity of light, and they are doing better photosynthesis in the open places along with the trees there. But the shrubs which are growing under shrubs, they are growing under the canopy of the tree in the shade condition, they can do. They don't want more intensity of light. The diffused light is enough for the shrubs to do more photosynthesis. That's why they are naturally growing below the tree and getting diffused light or shade light or skylight and doing better photosynthesis there. And the herbs, they are growing below the shadow of tall trees and shrubs, third layer. The herbs require very less intensity of light than the trees and shrubs. So naturally they are growing in the third layer and getting light and growing well. And the Organisms of the forest floor, like our bryophytes, moss is the one bryophytes, and the some pteridophytes, Selaginella, they are forming the forest floor community. They are requiring very less intensity, very shade or the very diffused light is enough for the higher photosynthesis of such kinds of bryophytes and pteridophytes. So they are naturally occurring at the forest floor. So organisms at different levels, they are arranged vertically and getting the sunlight and doing their better photosynthesis. Their common resource, light striking upon that particular area is very common, and they are sharing the light according to their position in the community and doing their function in a better way. This is a kind of adjustment the plants are having. And another thing that is called zonation. Zonation is the horizontal arrangement. Stratification is the vertical arrangement. Even you see the forest like Amazon, they are having as many as 8 layers of vegetation. The trees are more than 100 meter, 400 feet, 500 feet tall trees are available in Amazon. So again, the tall trees and medium-sized trees, small-sized seeds, trees, shrubs and bushes, herbs, forest floor, like that. 8 layers of vegetations, they are arranged one above the other in the Amazon type of ideal, the humid forest, evergreen forest. And zonation, this is the horizontal arrangement of the biotic communities one above the other. You see most of the aquatic communities, they are having these kinds of zonation. The zonation is also for a kind of adjustment. Zones, organisms are arranged in different zones and sharing the resources without any competition. So this is called as zonation. When you come to aquatic system, naturally there are three zonations. The topmost, the surface level of water, that is called littoral zone. Below littoral zone up to 1 feet or maximum 2 feet, we can say that is the limnetic zone. Below limnetic zone, in the dark area, in the deep water, that is called as the profundal zone. The littoral zone and limnetic zone, we can have more biodiversity, more number of organisms, particularly plants will be more in that two regions because light is available only in these two regions. Plants need light for photosynthesis. So in the surface level, we can see so many phytoplanktons. And when you come to lower level in the limnetic zone, the submerged plants are also be there. Plants like Hydrilla, Wallisneria, Ceratophyllum, Utricularia, Potamogeton. These are all some plants available there. So they are sharing the common light. The phytoplanktons like the volvox, and then the unicellular algae, filamentous algae, diatoms, and they are living in the topmost level, surface level. They need more light intensity. That's why in nature they are having the adaptation and this unicellular or filamentous nature, and they are floating on the surface of the water in order to get more light intensity. But in the second layer, the diffused light is enough. The Ceratophyllum, Utricularia type of plant, Wallisneria, Hydrilla, totally submerged in water in the second layer, but diffused or very little intensity of light is enough for better photosynthesis. There they are growing. So the zones between limnetic and profundal zone, that is called as compensation level or compensation point. Compensation point means the plants living in the compensation level, that is the marginal area between the limnetic and profundal zone, second layer and third layer. Between these two layers, that area is called as the compensation level, because the light available in the compensation level area is used to produce the photosynthetic material. The produced photosynthetic material is just used to meet out the expenditure of the same plant. There is no possibility of surplus production of the carbohydrate or food. So there is no possibility of storage of the food materials produced there. Whatever the food material or carbohydrate produced in a day, that can be utilized by the same plant within the same day. So that there is no gain or no loss to the plant. So the size of the plant remain very same at any time in that region, because there is no growth, no carbohydrate or any surplus production is there. But the profundal zone, it is having a lot of animals like fishes of different types, amphibians. They are in the profundal zone mainly. The reason is profundal zone is a very safety zone. It is a shelter place for many number of animals. Whenever it need food, it is coming up and taking food, and again it is going downwards. According to respiratory mechanism, some animals they can come to surface, and some they can anaerobic organisms are totally inside the water. So this zonation not only in aquatic region, we can see in the terrestrial region also the zonation is there. One very in a mountain region it is very common. One very good example we can see in the Himalayas. Himalayas are the tall mountain range up to 8,830 78 meter the altitude the Himalayas. In different zones, different vegetations, different animals are there. In low level up to 1,500 meters altitude, we can have the tropical deciduous forest in the low level of Himalayas, mainly organized by the plants like sal, deciduous plants like sal, bamboo. They are most common in the lower level. Similarly, the animals also vary. When you come to next level, that is 1,500 to 3,000 meter altitude, that is called as the temperate zone. In the temperate zone, entirely the plant systems are varying. Mostly the gymnosperms like pinus, the juniperus, abies, and then the some species of rhododendron, taxus. These are all the ulnus. These are all the very common species in the second zone. When you go to the third zone, that is above 3,000 meter altitude up to 5,000, that is called as alpine zone. Alpine zone, there are very little number of species. Biodiversity is very poor because the environment is not conducive for the development and reproduction of any kind of organism like plants or animals. So less biodiversity is in the alpine zone. In that, the plant system only the rhododendron and some species of the populus and rhododendron, they are common in the third alpine zone. Above the alpine zone, after 5,000 meters altitude above, there is no plants. The communities are very, very poor. We can see only the snow line or ice line above 5,000 meters altitude. So according to zones, the organisms are in different communities. This is also a kind of adjustment between the organism to share the common environment. In the common altitude, we can have the light intensity, temperature, rainfall, humidity, everything is same. But the sharing, that is the problem. So they are developing different adaptive features, and they are getting water and nutrients from the soil in different zone. You see one herb and one tree, they are growing. Herb is naturally requiring less intensity and less nutrients. So they are growing under the shadow of the tree, and the light intensity is poor. They are doing better photosynthesis. The absorptive zone of the roots that also vary. The tree that can produce a deep root system up to 5 meter. So nutrients and water from the deep soil that can be taken by the tree. But the herb that can take water only at surface level, shallow soil, only few centimeter, the root system that can be produced by the herb. So they can take nutrients from the soil of a few centimeters. So there is no competition. Both are adjusting very well and growing very well. So this is called as the zonation. And all of you know about the ecotone. When you study any community analysis, ecotonal region, study about the ecotone is also important. Ecotone is nothing but a region or a community or ecosystem available between two major communities. For example, the river ecosystem is there, or river community is there. At the banks, away from the banks, we can have another mesophyte community. Between this mesophyte community and the river, we in between we can have a special zone. So the that is called as the transition zone or marginal zone or ecotonal zone. So the ecotonal zone, biodiversity point of view, they are very rich. More number of species they are present. Both the species of both the communities, both the marginal communities, they are present in the ecotonal region. That is called as principle of edges. One terminology they are saying principle of edges means the high number of species than the adjacent communities in the ecotonal region is called as the principle of edges. So once the species are higher in number means definitely the functional mechanism or the functional process of the ecosystem is also be higher. Estuarine ecosystem in aquatic system is one best example of ecotonal region. Estuarine is the point where the rivers are merging with the ocean or sea. So in that, both fresh water and salt water are there in the estuarine ecosystem. When you go away from the estuarine inside the sea, fully salt water. When you come inside the land, the terrestrial area, where also fresh water only available. Inside the sea or in the away from the estuaries, we can have salt water. Estuarine only have both fresh water and salt water. So the organisms mostly living in fresh water, organism mostly living in salt water, both they can grow in the estuarine region. So naturally the biodiversity will be enriched there. So this is a one example. We are saying the ecotonal region. And when you study the community analysis, we cannot to omit the succession or the replacement of organisms in a habitat by another set of organism. So no plants, no animals, no other organisms are permanent in a habitat. It is changeable according to season, according to variation in the environmental condition. The organisms are changing. The rate of change of organism that can vary according to place. But anyhow, change of organism in a common habitat or in a community is inevitable. It must be changed. 1 year or 2 year or 100 years, it may be permanent. Afterwards, it will be changed. So the succession is also number of stages are there. Succession is not a simple process. The replacement of organism by other organisms, that will take number of stages are there. So the first we can say the nudation, and then the migration, germination, ecdysis, colonization, and then aggregation, and then the competition, invasion, reaction, stabilization. So many processes, they are very sequential. One stage cannot be bypassed. So they are sequential stages. One stage that can be passed very perfectly, then only the next stage will come. So the influence of environmental factor in each and every stage, how the replacement is happening in the community or an ecosystem, replacement of organisms are happening in the ecosystem, how the environmental factors are influencing, that is called as community development as per the word quoted by Wadham. But Clements, the pioneer in the plant community development, biotic community development, he termed that is succession. The continuous development of the biotic community is termed as succession. I think, 1 minute please. Venkata, hello. Hello, sir. Dear participants, can I continue or take in some other classes?
Sir, if still you have to say, sir, you can continue, sir. It's a very interesting topic
Okay.
that we are talking on.
You can carry, sir. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you. So succession, even we might have seen in many rivers, many lakes, ponds, etc. The succession very visible. Visible means within a not 1 year period or 10 years period, we cannot see the major changes. Of course, at least 100 years are required for the complete replacement of the total set of organisms in the pond ecosystem. That is called as hydroseed. Hydroseed is the process or the replacement of the water organisms or water organisms completely by another set of organisms, that is called hydroseed. Zero seed means how a desert become a forest in course of time. So first initially it is a desert, later on slowly by the development of vegetation and other combination of animals, that environment is changed, and finally after thousands of years the desert become forest. So that is called as the zero seed. Samo seed also the another type of the community succession, that is called Samo seed.
Can I interrupt one, sir?
PSAMMOSERE. Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Sir, sir, can you hear me?
Hello.
Yeah, hi, sir. Sir,
Yes,
can you
yes.
just spell what it is called as the desert slowly turns into a forest? What is the term used?
Zero seed. XEROSERE. Zero seed.
XEROSERE.
XE. XERO.
Okay.
Zero seed means the zero phytic and zero means water is not adequate. The plants are developing many adaptive features. You see the opensia, euphorbia, agave, aloe. These are all the plants. They are developing succulent tissues through which they are surviving in the low water content regions. So that region become forest in course of time. So after thousands of years, that may be changed into forest due to number
Thank
of
you, sir.
changes taking both at biotic level and abiotic level. That is zero seed. Hydro seed means a river or a pond that will become forest. So replacement of organism according to change in environmental conditions that is taking place. When you take the hydro seed, for example, the first formed community, very first, so open sea, a freshwater pond is there. So in this freshwater pond, the first formed organism, that is the that stage is called as the phytoplankton stage. The first stage in the hydrosphere, that is called as the phytoplankton stage. Phytoplankton stage means the organisms are mainly composed by both plants and animals. They are living at the surface level of the water. No organisms in the deep water or shallow water. Almost 95% of the organisms, they are available at the surface level. As told earlier, the filamentous algae, single celled algae, diatoms, these are all the very common plants available at the surface level. Along with, we can have animals also, amoeba, paramecium, and other protozoans. They are the zooplanktons. Along with phytoplanktons, they are available at surface level. So what happens in course of time, due to the death and decay of this biomass of the phytoplanktons, they are going down and settled at the bottom of the lake. The dead matter after the excuse after the death of the phytoplanktons and zooplanktons, the dead matter goes down and is settled on the bottom of the lake. So the soil surface is slightly increasing. Not this is not happened within a day or within an year. So years together this process, because algae very short period of life they are having. One filament is there means maximum 1 month or 2 months it will be alive. After then it can reproduce. The original plant will die off, and they are going down and settled there as organic matter at the bottom of the this lake or pond. Similarly, the animals also, and little bit the bottom of the lake they are raised. The water level is decreased, not significant, not at significant level, but a little bit reduced. At the time, the next stage will come along with the phytoplankton stage. The second stage, that is the floating rooted stage. Sorry, rooted submerged stage. That is the second stage. Rooted submerged means the plants are having permanent root system. But in the phytoplankton stage, the plants are not having root system. Simply they are on the surface of the water. They are getting water very directly. But the second stage, rooted submerged stage, they are having root system. The roots are fixed in the soil, and the other portions, the green portions of the plants are submerged inside. The plants like the hydrilla, very common plants we can see, Vallisneria, Utricularia, Potamogeton, and then the Ceratophyllum. These are all the plants normally living inside the water without any exposure. They cannot expose it to light. So, but they are having permanent root system, and the root system is fixed in the soil. Again, these plants are also die after some period, after the completion of the life cycle. These plants are also die, and the organic matter that can be increased in the bottom of the pond, and the water level is again reduced by increasing the soil level. Then the third level will come, the floating rooted stage. Floating, the plants will float, but they are also having root system and fixed in the soil. Example, our nymphea, a lotus plant, lotus nymphea, nelumbium, and then the iconia, monocaria, azola, salvia, wolfia. These are all the common plants. They are having root system, at the same time they are floating on the water. So this is third system according to condition. When again the environment is changing by adding the dead matter of these plants and animals to the bottom of the lake, by which the depth of the water is decreasing and the soil depth is increasing. So slowly the soil depth is getting on increasing by adding more and more water. During these periods, the rainwater that also carries soil, from the nearby areas. So the soil is deposited inside the lake. The soil depth is increasing, water depth is decreasing. So this condition is unfit for these kinds of floating but rooted plants. So another the set of plants will come that is called as the um, sedge meadow stage. Sedge meadow. Sedge means it is cypressy members. Plants of cypressy members are commonly called as sedge. Cypressy means our cypress plant, Cypress rotundus, Cypress triceps, juncus, carex. These are all the examples of cypressy members. They are very common and they are little bit, they can resist the terrestrial environmental conditions also. So these sedges, meadow, that is mainly composed by grasses. So cypressy members and gramineae members, they are common in the next stage. They are coming. They they transfer water, the water that can be transpirated by these plants through the leaf system, and same time rainwater that will carry the soil particles to the lake. So lake water system, water depth that can again decrease and the soil depth is increased, and the death of the plants and other animals in this stage also increasing the fertility of the soil. So the next stage will come, that is they called as the phragmites. That is phragmite stage means phragmites is also belongs to the Poaceae family. The typha, sagittaria, phragmites, carca, these are all the very common plant that is called as the phragmite stage. So this stage also transpiring more water. Water loss will be heavy because the leaves are somewhat better than the previous stages. Through the leaves, the water is transpired, and then the again the same process, getting soil through the rainwater to the lake, and then the deposition of the dead matter that will increase. So that will not be suitable for the fragmate plants. So in the next stage, the woodland stage will come. The tree species will come there. So trees, woodland means the sparse arrangement of tree species. Trees are not close to each other. So there is a considerable distance between the tree individuals. That is called as the woodland stage. So this stage also at one stage not fit for that place, and a forest stage will come finally. So after 500 years, 1000 years, one for the freshwater area that can be completely converted into the forest area. So this is one process, succession. So the study about the succession, it is inevitable for the community study. When you study community or ecosystem, succession is inevitable. We should study or we should get knowledge about the replacement of the organism, because it is a series of process, the sequential process, the predictable one also. What will be the future we can predict there. If it is natural area without any human influence or pollution, if it is natural development is there, then we can predict the future type of community. Similarly, we can predict the what were the past. So the past and future organisms in that area that can be predicted, because it is a sequential replacement. So no replacement can be bypassed by the other. So it is going on sequentially. So these are all the stages. For example, in hydroseed, similarly in zero seed, samoseed, we are having different stages. But the processes taking place during succession, I told the 10 important process taking place. The nudation. Nudation means the open exposure of the habitat to the environmental conditions. So high temperature, low temperature in different seasons, high rainfall, low rainfall, prolonged drought condition available there, high humidity, mist condition. For all these conditions, one habitat is exposed without any hurdle or the checking. So that is called as the nudation, open to all environmental conditions, exposure of the habitat to open environmental condition. That is called as the nudation. During nudation, what happens? The propagules, that is the seeds and other reproductive disseminates from plant systems, they are transported to the nuded area. from the nearby communities near some 5 kilometer 10 kilometer or very close to that nudity area. The seeds and other reproducing propagules that can be transported through various agencies, they settled. For example, seeds means they are transported by agencies and settled in the soil and awaiting for the favorable condition. If favorable conditions there, like rainfall occurs, immediately the seeds will germinate. Very next day we can see a greenish appearance in that day. In a open place, a bare area, it is our common experience, we might have no doubt. In the bare area, in a footpath or in some other places, in a prolonged drought condition, there is no plants in that area. But after 1 or 2 rains, within a week, we can see a greenish appearance. That means such number of large quantity of seeds, they are stayed in the soil. They came from nearby communities and stayed in the soil, waiting for the favorable condition. Immediately, with the onset of rainy season, all the plants, all the seeds of the plants, they are germinating. That is called as the germination stage, third stage. So overcrowding after germination, when you see hundreds of plants, seedlings, they are growing in the limited area. Within a 1 square feet area, we can see thousands of individuals. The germinated plants are there. So all these germinated plants cannot grow in that place, in that limited place, in a comfortable way. So they cannot get the resources comfortably for their growth and development. So what happens? Competition sits there. That means the after germination stage, few elements only getting success. Out of 1,000 individuals grown in that region, only 50 or 100 they are getting success. The remaining 900 individuals, they are destroyed or died. So the successful establishment of fewer individuals, that is called as eccysis. That is the next process, eccysis. After eccysis, the 100 or 50 individuals, they are growing and they are producing seeds. The seeds are dispersed and they are growing in the same place, in some other place. If they are growing in the same place, again the population density is increasing, community density is increasing there, and then slowly colonies are formed there. Small colonies, small colonies within the prescribed area, they are forming. That process is called as colonization. After colonization, the next stage is aggregation. Aggregation means the colonies again and again they are enlarging its size. So different colonies, they are merged together, aggregated together. At one stage, the large number of small colonies, they are merged together and forming one single large colony. That is called as the aggregation. So the first formed organisms in the colonies and aggregates, they are called as the pioneer community. So after the aggregation, next stage, the competition sets. Again, the number will be more beyond the threshold number. So 500 is only the suitable number for 1 meter square area. Means in this process of colonization and then the aggregation, 1,000 plants will grow. 1,000 individuals can grow in that region. So 1,000 that cannot be accommodated by the space. So what happens? The next process, competition sets there. Competition for resources like nutrients, water, light. The plants compete between themselves, and only the successful plants will get success. Highly vigorous plants, they can get success. The other plants, they will be naturally eliminated in the region. So they will be eliminated in this region. So this is called as the this process that is called as competition. As a result of competition, the environment is slightly changed because due to competition, many number of plants will die. The death of the plants that will add the biomass to the soil, the biomass that can be decomposed, and the fertility of the soil is increased. So the higher fertility, high moisture content, high humus content, that can invite new elements to that area. New species will suddenly invade it inside the play in that place. That is called as the invasion. Invasion means the sudden entry of strangers. They are not at all the old elements, new plants, new animals that will enter in that region. So that is called as the invasion. So after invasion, the reaction will be taking place between the existing community and then the environment. Reaction at one stage slow down, the stabilized formation will occur. That process is called as the stabilization. we can get the climax stage, forest. So first formed the pioneers or the nudation. For example, when you take it is a this sandy area or the hard soil, no plants are there in the nudation time. At last stage, we are getting the forest. The forest is the stabilized stage. The stabilized stage is the climax. So climax also undergoes the changes, but the rate of changes is very slow. Very slow rate of changes that can be taking place in the stabilized stage. So these are all the changes taking place during in the structural aspects. Functional aspects also changes taking place in the succession. There are two major functional change. One is the increasing of the organic compound, dead organic compound to the both living biomass and non-living biomass. So dead matter that can be increased. Again and again, the plants and animals are dying, and the dead matter is added. That means the fertility of the land that will be increased, the habitat will be increased. Second one, the shifting of the metabolism from autotrophy to heterotrophy. Autotrophy means the self-food generating mechanism. Suppose we can calculate the autotrophy by photosynthesis by respiration rate. Photosynthesis in unit time, respiration in unit time, that can be taken. Photosynthesis divided by respiration, that is called as the metabolism rate, we can say. That is the autotrophic level. Suppose the P by R ratio, photosynthesis by R, photosynthesis by respiration ratio is more than 1, that community is considered to be autotrophic in nature. That means more photosynthesis is happened. P by R ratio is more than 1 means the photosynthetic rate is higher than the respiratory rate. So production of food material is very high. That is in the autotrophy. In initial stage of the plant succession, autotrophy is there. P by R ratio is always greater than 1. And in stabilized stage, last stage, P by R ratio is equal to 1. How much photosynthesis happened? The same, almost the quantity is used for respiration. So no gain and no loss. P by R ratio is equal to 1 in the stabilized. Heterotrophy, after stabilization or climax stage, the deterioration will take place. There the heterotrophy approaches. P by R ratio is less than 1. Photosynthesis is less, respiration is high. So that will naturally deteriorate the community. Even in a family also, if you spend more money than your income, what happen? The family will get collapse. So more income, more expenditure, or the same amount of expenditure is 1. That is stabilized condition. 1,000 rupees you are earning in one day. All the 1,000 rupees spent means for our requirement we are spending 1,000 rupees. What we earned in that day. So there is no growth and no surplus deposition or surplus. There is no so it is 1. Suppose less income, more expenditure, what will happen? 100,000 rupees you are earning, 5,000 rupees you are spending in the same day. So that will collapse the family. Similarly, heterotrophy, less production with high respiration. So naturally the community will deteriorate it at one stage. So this is the functional changes taking place during succession. In any type of community, this is the common trend. So I think the remaining little portion, another half an hour or 45 minutes it will take to finish the sin ecology. I will take in the next class, day after tomorrow or within 2 days I will take.
Oh, sorry, sir. This is Akhil. I have one request.
Yes, sir.
See, I I don't come from a biology background,
Yes,
so the issue is I've learned a lot of terminology today. Uh, so there are a lot of different terms which you use and also explain. So is there a way we can get all these notes, or is there any writing or any small book
sir,
where
I will
this I
suggest
can
some
read and
textbooks, sir. It is commonly available in the market. I will suggest one book that is Ecology and Environment by P.D. Sarma.
Okay.
One book. Another one, uh, Textbook of Plant Ecology by R.S. Ambast. R.S. Ambast. And another book, Plant Ecology by Shukla and Chandel. Shukla and Chandel.
Okay.
These are all the common textbooks available, sir. Almost all these points, what I have mentioned, they are available there. After completing my first unit, I will give some hints for each topic, sir. You can develop that hints and the essay can be prepared.
Oh, okay, great. Because I'm coming across these terms, I think only after 25 years, so or more than 25 years. So that is the challenge, and that's why I was requesting. If I have something to refer continuously, then I will be able to remember all this terminology and concepts the way it is expected from your university.
Okay, sir. I will give the study material. Once you go through that one, then there is no problem, sir.
Okay, first, sir. Thank you so much for your help.
Thank you. Thank you.
Uh, Good evening, sir.
Good evening, ma'am.
Sir, can you please put the names of these books in the group?
Yes, definitely. Tomorrow you can see, ma'am. I will give you a list of book other than these three also. So it is
Okay.
available in all bookstalls. You can buy it anywhere.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much.
So any other doubt, ma'am, or any clarification you need, dear participants?
No, sir. Thank you so much for your time, and it was really nice. And we'll try to memorize all the things and understand the concept better, sir.
Okay, definitely.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Sir, I have one question. This is Akhil. Uh, are you able to? Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay, it's a general question that I have. You were referring to one particular aquatic plant, that is Potamogeton.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And there is also a similar plant with genus Aponogeton. Is Aponogeton also a plant which is in India?
Potamogeton available in the fresh waters of our area also, sir. Submerged plant.
Okay.
It cannot be exposed outside. The total plant system is inside the water only. In shallow regions, not in the deep water, up to 1 meter
Huh.
depth it can grow.
Okay.
Sir, excuse me, sir.
Yes, yes.
Sir, I'm Mohan from institution zoology department. I have a doubt, sir. We were talking about the succession of species of other. Sir, you were saying that it takes many years, more than 10 to 20 years for a succession of species. But in some cases like pollution and if you use a herbicide or like that, there is a chance that there is an immediate death of a native organism, and there is the chances of the invasion of foreign organism is very likely more. So there the succession takes place very quickly, no sir.
Yes, yes.
So
Yes, sir.
so there are discrepancies between what you were saying and
Yes,
here
I
because
told about the
succession is
natural
quick.
way of development. I told about the natural way of development. If if there is no anthropogenic disturbance like pollution or man-made problems and other things are there, then it will take a long period for complete replacement. But what you are saying that influence of man like pollution, degradation, in urbanization, immediately very next day we can see the other kind of plants. For example, when they are destroying a habitat like lake, and they are forming in many areas, occupy the encroachment of the lake and other freshwater ecosystems are very common nowadays, due to population explosion and other problems. So within a month, they are totally leveling the pond, and they are filling the pond with soil, and raising the houses and industries there. So the garden plants and then the other avenue trees they are planting, and the total system is entirely changing. That is also succession. The force is very heavy through man, and it is used to change the community, both plants and animals there totally. So in natural way, the community, a natural community is there without the disturbance of human being or unpolluted area, in forest systems like that. So in deep forest, interior forest, we can see the replacement will take place within a not within a short period. Minimum thousands year required for the that Mohenjo-daro Harappa regions, some 5,000 years back, that was forest, a dense forest, one of the important area, border area. The invasion cannot be permitted inside India because of the thick forest there. Then what happened that Mohenjo-daro forest and forest, because of totally the human invasion, the forest areas are completely that can be replaced, and now we can see the semi mesophytic plants, the semi-arid regions. So the total area that can be completely converted into semi-arid region, mostly mesophytic plants are there. So with the influence of human being, only the system can be completely replaced. So the possibility is there with the influence of man. Very immediately, a short period of 1 month, a community can be changed into another community, making lawn inside an area, the indoor gardens like that. All these things are influence of man. Immediately, the area can be changed.
So thank you, sir. And another one, sir.
Yes.
So for a species to succeed, it must struggle for its existence, and it must be fit, right, sir? So is there any mathematical calculation to determine which organism will succeed in a particular ecosystem after a particular time of period of
Yes.
time?
Yes. Plant indicators are there. They are called ecological indicators also. All of the things are applicable, only the system is developing in its own way. If the things are influenced by man, particularly the degradation, desertification, pollution. So these are all the influence by man in a past phase that will change. So indication sometimes they can failure. Suppose if it is a natural way of community development, we can predict that definitely what will be the organisms in course of time after 100 years or 200 years. This will be occupied by the plants like the forest. If it is the climate is tropical, the rainfall is around 600 millimeter in tropical area, then we can expect the deciduous plants will be dominating once in future in that region. So we can find out. It is simply just like a mathematics. Recently, some mathematical models also developed for forest management. That is also with the influence of human being. When the man influencing in the forest development system, how the succession will be there, that also be calculated. But that studies are having certain limitations. We cannot apply the whole thing for this prediction and other things, because environment is not uniform. In the climate change scenario, the extreme climate events happened like a flash flood, landslide, the prolonged drought, heavy rain, the cloud burst, like that. So many bushfires there happened. So if the things are crossed, then our prediction will be failed. So definitely predictable, but if it is a natural condition.
Yes, sir. Thanks a lot, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Can I finish it? Participants, can I finish the session?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You can, sir. Thank you so much,
Okay.
sir.
Thank you. Thank you for your patience hearing. So next class I will meet you with the remaining part of cine ecology and the ecosystem concept.
Sure, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.